Hey everybody, my name is Anton. Welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 New Order as America. Let us continue on where we last left off. So, there has been, unfortunately, the assassination of Martin Luther King, which is not great. But aside from that, Kennedy is still becoming more and more popular, which is nice. Where do we want to campaign? Well, first, who's actually running? I guess let's go to... I actually have no idea. I have no clue where we want to go. I mean, I guess if the nationalists are collapsing, it makes sense that maybe we would want to pull more in the south for the RDC. So we'll get that going. Foreign policy, yes, yes, yes. Spend points on you. 75% is looking good. And what do you need to do to clear this complete? I'm guessing both of these need to be at 100. Okay. NPPs run a good campaign in the Great Lakes. I mean, they were already super progressive up there, so... I don't see it really being worth our time anyways to try to swing those voters. I think it makes sense for the RDC to try to actually focus on the South and just dislodge the nationalists, which are not very popular. Again, we still want to do East Southern Fears. That'll be done in just a few days, because again, we do get like almost 3 political power per day, which is really nice. Foreign policy. Let's get our specialized military training. Economic progress is now at 100%. We just need to get our the military strength up, which is good. Okay, reconstruction is centered around economic reconstruction, military strength. Both abstract consolidation, the authorities. Holding a constellation progress is 90%. Okay, it's currently 72.5, so we need to get the military up higher in West Africa. Or to iron. Everyone who's ever written anything knows that feeling. Staring at a piece of paper and knowing that something should have already be there. No matter how many cups of coffee one has, there are some days that the words just wouldn't come out, despite everything. Today was not one of those days. At least, not for Jean Kirkpatrick. As she sat at her desk, the words poured out of her head like a stream of water, one unhindered by a dam of writer's block. They splashed into the page, filling it to the brim with new and interesting ideological tenets. Well, calling them new, bit of a stretch. Refined would be a better word. Reforged? Maybe. Kirkpatrick was taking the raw iron of her hit 1965 essay, Dictatorships and Double Standards, and putting it through a fire. She was refining those ideas into steel. She was still working on what form this steel would take. She had so many options. Would the book and the ideas held within be a hammer to forge the Organization of Free Nations into a stronger alliance? Would they be forged into a whetstone to sharpen America's talons? Or maybe, would these ideas be forged into a dagger that'd be pointed at the threat of fascism and totalitarianism around the world? Just another question Kirkpatrick needed to answer. She's expanding on her ideas of her essay, which offered heavy critiques of the foreign policy failures of the administration of the National Progressive Pact in 1964. In that essay, she had come up with and introduced the concept of the Kirkpatrick Doctrine, the idea that aid should be given to authoritarian countries if they are opposed to totalitarian ones. It was this essay that had led her to becoming a common sight in congressional hearings and running, and winning, site in the Virginia's 10th Congressional District. The ideas within the essay still need to be refined, however, and that was what she was doing now. She had to come up with something good. The fire grows hotter. Now, I mean, we had failures in Colombia. I'm willing to accept that for the MPP. Haiti, I believe, was lost under the RDC. South Africa was won under Kennedy. Indonesia was won under Kennedy. Like, what? Italy was won under Kennedy. What is your problem? I feel like we've been doing some fantastic things all around. Okay, but now we will be able to ease some southern fears. Get that done in 12 days. If this can go down at least 1 point, we can take another focus, expanding our liberal ideology, which I think will be nice for us. I will say, the New Order does still run pretty slowly, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, especially in France. Because they are still having their massive... Is this a 5-front war? Now, the revolutionaries are definitely dead. But the French resistance, if they can win, and then, you know, Italy, France, Iberia, and, you know, the UK are all in the OFN, that would be kind of crazy. You know what, actually, what I should also do, I just realized, is we should bring some armies from North America and send them to Europe. Let's station these troops here. I'm going to station these troops here. These are all our Marine divisions. Let's get you guys into this army. Bring the Marines into you. And then for now, you guys can shift onto the Swiss border. I don't even know where these guys are, but we'll delete all of your old plans. You will be in Greece in the south. This 12 stack, I don't know where you're at, but you can go to Bulgaria on this line. What about Romania? They are a member of the Einstein Pact, so we do actually want to send them troops here as well. So let's delete your plans, and we're going to send you to Croatia. I have too many blue armies. Have you noticed that? Let's make you into the pink. We don't need to be on the border with Canada. Let's shift you. You guys can be the dark blue army. And we'll put you on the border with Romania. I think that seems good. I mean, it makes way more sense for us to have units stationed in Europe than it does for them to be stationed in North America. At least that's the way I kind of see it right now. The mind of a soldier. It's easy to imagine the Weimar soldier as little more than an automaton. But this was the exact picture the German government had to attempt to paint in our minds. In fact, the soldiers are very much human, beholden to the same inaccurate approximations and superstitions that befall any one of us. This fact, if used correctly at the key points of stress, can allow us to defeat our foes without firing a single bullet. Hart leaned back in his seat, his eyes locked on the speaker. Who was this man? And how was he wandered into the Armed Service Committee? Most military leaders were subdued and serious, excepting LeMay and a few other isolated madmen. Yet this Lansdale fellow was animated and bright, waving his hands and leaning into his podium like a mix of a mad scientist and a magician. He was also clearly well-versed in material. His notes painted a detailed, if imaginative, portrait of the German psyche and its precious points of attack. His monologue ended once some general interrupted with some banal question about procedure. Whatever conversation continued from there was not worth following. Clearly, the generals just wanted to tie Lansdale down. Hart waited for a session to end before getting up to speak with Major General directly. I enjoyed your talk, General Lansdale. I think you've got a bright future ahead of you. Lansdale seemed lost in thought. He kept his head down as he packed up his papers. These days, just doesn't feel like it, he said, his voice now forlorn. But I appreciate your confidence. So presumably, if we were to have Hart be elected, which is absolutely not going to happen, then, you know, Lansdale would become a more influential figure in America. And actually, you know what? I want to get these guys into a new theater, just so I know who's actually in North America and who is in Europe. I don't know how many field marshals we have. But let's get these ones, and then I want to make sure you're a different color. Let's make you into the green army. So it looks like blue, pink. So it looks like you three will be under one field marshal. I think I missed one of you. Yeah, so it should be you three under a field marshal. We'll make this field marshal Creighton Abrams Jr. Sounds great. And then the other four, you were the wrong... No, you should be here. I know we're having too many field marshals, but I'm honestly not too worried about that right now. Let's put William Westmoreland. And this is the European Theater. Are you the Marines? What are you? You're just kind of garbage. That's fine. And then, yeah, you're the American Theater. We can mix you together. And the Purple Army... Yeah, so they're the ones stationed around the colonies, which makes sense. I think these are two good theaters. But I mean, theater here is spelled... I mean, I know we're playing as the United States, but I'm going to spell it this way. Thank you. And for unassigned division, again, you are a Marine. You're going to go into the Marine Army. I have too many Marines. I mean, it's fine, because again, their main purpose is to potentially navally invade areas in the Pacific, if that is necessary. How things are made. Okay, don't worry about this right now. Is there actually anything we can do with foreign policy? Again, we need to get our military up. Invite DuPonts to West Africa. Optics will go down a little bit. The demons convene. Now, I have a feeling that you are going to reduce... This will increase our liquid assets. Economic reconstruction will go down below 100%, which seems bad. We'll worry about that afterwards. Okay. And what are you? Oh, no, and then this will cancel us out. Okay. How things are made. They trooped her through the plantation. She saw those dark little hands reach out of the cocoa beans, machetes in hands smaller than the girth of the handle swinging upwards, cracked through the rows of plants. She saw them cut the beans and grind them into fine dust, a patchwork of calluses on the palm of their hands, so young and yet so old. She made deals to get there, a lieutenant down the road, some $120 under the table, and on she rode, to the Hershey plantation down the south, where she stayed. Camera, she said? Lieutenant shrugged. She carried one Polaroid with her anyways, taking pictures of things she'd rather forget. Searing in color the things she had seen. She saw those pictures crawl out of her Polaroid, horrors etched against every corner, mundane and plain. She stared at those fingers again, noticing the missing fingers, the scars of slashes rendering through the flesh. She quizzed the children, early risers against their own will. Small hours in the morning, they woke up, straight to the plantation. No playtime. None older than 9. She asked if they'd seen their parents. Shake of the head. Had they ever eaten chocolate? Another shake. They had head back in town half an hour later, silence growing amid the rustle of the underbush. In her room, she wrote, "The Lady of Liberty defaced." Now, unfortunately, like I said last time, don't look at who's mining the chocolate, okay? However, we're going to get that right back, baby. We're going to get that right back here. Stop here. The jeep halted on the clearing above the ridge overlooking the river on whose bank a village lay. The sound of life were a mere whisper in the distance. 2 men stepped off the vehicle, shirts drenched in the intensity of the sub-Saharan sun. One hunched, examining the soil by crumpling it in his hands. His 2 fingers ground the dry, retted dirt into fine grains of dust, leaving wispy trails draining onto the earth from which it came. "Seems about the right type of soil," the hunchman said. "Just needs a little bit of water." With that river, he inclined with a gesture of his finger, "will be set. Rubber trees will grow well here." "How much land do you reckon Firestone will take?" his companion said, eyeing the village with the binoculars he held. Rough estimation. "Oh well," the other man stood. From here, he indicated the edge of the jungle, to here. His hands swept through the village to reach the other side of the vegetation. "I reckon that'll make him happy. And a village? What about the village? Is there going to be a problem?" "No. No, of course not. Once again, do not look. Do not look who's going to be getting this rubber for us, okay? That is, we can ignore that. Okay, the underlying problem. And once again, we're being looked with suspicion, but we're not seen as a danger. Happy with that. As many Browns versus board as it takes, 50 political power would actually be quite nice. And 7 days? Would not say no to that one. Okay, now, we only care... Did I go back up to 100, by the way? Did we get back up to 100% for economic? We did. So DuPont. We do not need to invite DuPont to West Africa. We just need to get the military up to snuff. And once the military is up to snuff, we can declare reconstruction completed, and we will have a firm hold over West Africa, which I'm very, very happy to see. Who watches the Watchmen? President Kennedy lay in bed, staring at the ceiling as his wife read beside him. One of those vacious Victorian romances that she loved so much. He was thinking about cages. It was Henry Truman, he recalled, the one who called the White House the finest prison in the world. He wasn't far off from the truth there. All across America, right this second, millions of people were behind bars. Some of them destined for the electric chair, and plenty of them should never have been in there in the first place. Everyday prisoners were beaten, abused, and had their basic rights withheld from them. And this, thought the president, is what we call justice. He had to do something. America's rotten justice system hung over his head like the sword of Damocles, swaying to and fro. And he knew he wouldn't be free from the eternal presence until he scored the attaints from the justice from America. Tomorrow he began working on a bill to reform America's prison and end their cruel, discriminatory, and unjust practices. Hang in there, fellas, he thought, as he drifted off to sleep. It won't be this way for much longer. I do. Okay, see the sword of Damocles. Foreign policy... economic recovery. Again, we don't worry about economic recovery right now. We're just focused on the military. We can expand development if we get another event reducing us down. I don't know if we will, but, you know, just in case, we do want to just save those in our back pocket. And 113, more liberal. The brain knows. Okay, let's read the event first before we actually do one of these. President Kennedy tapped furiously at the typewriter, stopping only to sip from the glass of scotch on his side, the ice having long ago melted. Kennedy vigorously poured his thoughts onto the page in a stream of consciousness, knowing that the interns who wrote his speeches would clean it up later. It was as fiery and passionate as all of his other speeches had been lately, filled with rhetoric and calls to action. Kennedy was tired of having to kowtow to the rightists of the party, but he paused to have a belt of scotch. He wondered perhaps he could stand to rein in at least a little bit. throw a few right-wingers a bone. They were party brothers after all, and he couldn't control Congress without them, despite the progressives' dominance. Big names like Estlund, Thormont, and Wallace still drew voters to the party like moths to a flame, or a zapper. Frowning, Kennedy debated with himself as what would be wise to make the speech reassuring to right-wingers. Obviously, he couldn't give them any real concessions. Perhaps it was a good idea to change his language, scale back the bombast, assure them that his plan for civil rights wouldn't be as extreme as they feared. Sipping, Kennedy leaned back in his chair, furrowing his brow as his brain dragged him one way and his heart another. Right minorities would improve Dragon's Teeth, or more support for the leaderships in the caucus. You know what? We're at suspicion right now. The heart wants what the heart wants. We're once again seen as progressive. Unfortunately, it looks like we've gotten a little bit lower with the union members. I'm presuming that's because we tried to ease some southern fears. Makes sense. That would occur. And what else do we want? There will be no compromise. Stamp out the flames of hate. Or what else do we have in here? Fight for the future. What about in this tree? You know what? Let's do Ready for War. That allows us to do on to Tokyo as soon as the election is finished. So you know what? Let's finish this one up. War support, don't care about that much. We'll unlock a decision to rally our party. I mean, that actually does sound quite nice. War on pacifism, community outreach, initiatives. Don't care about any of those too much. Is there anything we can do for our party, though? I mean, I do want all of you on. I don't think we need any notifications here. Still moderately conservative. GDP is greater, but debt is a little higher than expected. Which means that shit. I mean, I have been throwing money around all willy-nilly. I'm not going to deny that. We have been spending a lot of money. Inflation at 9.3 is still crazy. But hey, I mean, our GDP growth is still 5.1%. I mean, that still sounds pretty good. We could cut expenditures down at least a little bit. Cut the Navy down. Because what does this do? Is it just... Yeah, these are already as low as they can possibly be. Science expenditures, research speed. I still think you're also garbage. I honestly don't know if you do anything for us, so... We'll cut those expenses where we can. And what else? What else can we do? Because again, I don't want to be assassinated. That's really the big thing. A crisis in Nanjing. If they want to have an economic crisis, I mean, that does sound good for us. A good RDC campaign. Okay, let's campaign. Even... There's actually some support for the sovereigntists here. 9%, huh? 9%. I mean, it's still extremely progressive. Let's campaign in the south. Seems okay for us. Sheathing the Sword of Damocles. The time has come to draft our prison reform bill to end the horrific injustice faced every day by American convicts. Serving a sentence doesn't disqualify a man from having the same basic rights and protections guaranteed to every American. It's about time that moves from the realm of ideals to reality. We can't let inhuman penal colonies be run in America, but at the same time, changing such an entrenched institution overnight will be far from easy. Instead of going all in, we could instead issue some more moderate reforms to fix the major problems and try to deal with prison reforms slow and steady. We can also preserve our political capital by just issuing token reforms that our opponents could hardly oppose, though looking overly draconian. But will that really do any good? The fact that injustice in America prisons must be remedied, the only question remains, how strong will we make the dose? So I'm actually surprised we're only still with suspicion. No compromise. Seen as less liberal. Not alienating the base. Don't rain on my parade. Even more liberal. You know what? There's no compromise in justice. If we're already going to be at suspicion. Okay, good NPP campaign. The Dragon's Teeth. President Kennedy sat behind his desk, chin on hand, listening to Thurmond sharply criticize him and everything he stood for over the phone. Thurmond had a way of delivering the most unpleasant insults so that it didn't sound like insults at all. Since he'd pick up his receiver to find Thurmond on the other side, Kennedy had received quite a few of them. Underneath the subtle faux politeness, Kennedy could tell that Thormund was absolutely livid about the most recent speech he'd given in support of civil rights. Anger of the right-wingers had been growing for a while, and to the president's irritation, this had apparently been the straw that broke the camel's back. He could feel Thormund's fury radiating through the telephone like beams of radiation directly into his brain. As ever, Kennedy said as little as possible to avoid aggravating Thormund further. The less material fueling the fire of the old Carolina Devil, the better. Suddenly, Thormund changed tact. You ever hear the story of Jason and the Dragon's Teeth, Mr. President? Without waiting for a response, seemingly knowing he had Kennedy off his guard, Thormund continued. Old Jason, looking for that golden fleece, had to plant some Dragon's Teeth on the earth, like seeds. Only when he did, the teeth sprouted into unholy warriors who attacked him on sight. There's a moral to the story, Bobby. You reap what you sow. That's a message you do well to keep in mind. As Kennedy drew breath to respond, the phone clicked as Thormund hung up on him. Slowly, he put the phone back on a hook. It had seemed like it had been a while since Bobby had read the classics, but he seemed to remember Jason winning in the end. Of course, he thought as the memory returned, he had to pay a terrible price for it. Okay, but again, we're still suspicion. We are still only suspicious. But with that, I think this is a really good time for us to end this episode. So if you enjoyed, thumbs up. Not doing a thumb down. And I think next time we'll probably see the election play out. So tune in for that. Have a great day, and goodbye.